This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. We have an in-studio guest today. He's been on the show before. I talk about him quite a bit. It is none other than Jarrett Morrison of Juice's Jigs. Thanks for jumping on BTL, Juice.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Excited about it.
In all honesty, this kind of came together. We were actually going to record a show that was going to run next week. I don't know if I can talk about what I'm doing next week. I need to make some calls and see that. It's be recorded shows next week. I got something really cool that's going on. And we were going to record afterwards, but then things switched around. And you're live now instead of next week. So literally you had like a 5-minute heads up. But okay. You were planning on doing one in 45 minutes anyway. So I don't know if I mentioned this on air, but last week there's a big rainstorm, and I talked about it with Frank quite a bit, and I dang near totaled the truck, hydroplaned, which I'd never done before, which was really scary, but got it taken care of. Really good angler in the area, used to have a body shop forever, Mike Myers, runs it in out of Oklahoma City. So truck's in there getting some work done on it. And I also realized today we're on the way back to the studio. Big tornado day coming up in Oklahoma. Man.
It's Oklahoma.
You gotta take this mic and then put it right up to your mouth, and then talk like you normally talk when you're telling a story, not all soft.
Okay. All right. How's that?
But yeah, that's good. Big tornado day in Oklahoma. So not really looking forward to that. So things could get interesting. But what I wanted to do was, we had a lot going on in the world of professional fishing. We're going to talk a little bit of heavy hitters. We're going to talk about Pat Schlapper, a really cool tournament, I thought, on the Sabine River, especially after all 10 of the anglers. And I talked with Mercer about this kind of before this 2-week stretch where they went Lake Fork and Sabine River back to back. We're like, man, we should have done Sabine River and then Lake Fork, because you go to Pat Schlapper, who won with 38 pounds 12 ounces over 4 days. I mean, you had Carl Jocumsen getting 13 inches or 12.5-inch fish out of chain link fences that he's casted under, going, oh, it's a giant, mate. It's a giant. And, but he was like, man, they're going to look even smaller after you've got all those guys at Lake Fork that are catching them. But, Pat Schlapper gets it done, 38-12. I've gotten to know Pat a little bit. I'm sure I'll get him on the show. Listen, we're like backlogged on shows, massively on this. I still haven't had Kyle Welcher on after his win. We haven't had anything on Lake Fork. You got the heavy hitters on MLF. Now you've got Schlapper. You've got Jay Shakuret, who has a 42-point lead, headed up north, actually, in the Angler of the Year race. So a lot going on. So we'll talk about all that. But 38-12, Patrick Walters, big final day, 38-6 or 36-8, tied with Koya. Koya and Taku finished 3-4 in this event, 36-8, 36-2, and then Kyle Welcher with a good comeback. I thought it was a very interesting top 10 with a very international flair. You had 20% of the top 10 from Japan, 10% of the top 10 from Canada, and then, Wisconsin, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, Virginia, all over the board. Did you watch any of that stuff, Juice?
Oh, yeah, dude. It was, you're talking about going from Lake Fork to the Sabine, and it was pretty funny watching those guys flip, and then they're setting the hook, and they're slinging a 1.5 pound largemouth on the other side of the boat several times throughout the derb. So
what do you like to see? Do you like to see slugfest where it's going to take a 30-pound bag where they're on Paul Elias 132.8 watch where the records might go down, or do you like to see a grinder where a guy's got a 15-incher and it's hung up in a stump and he's freaking out because he knows that that's the difference between 40th and 70th?
I love a good grinder, but like it was, that looked just like for glutton for punishment for those guys just trying to go through fish and calling and stuff like that. They're calling ounces, micro calling the whole derby, so.
I think it's more relatable. I think both are good, but to me, and I grew up in Central Illinois, we use the term grinder tournaments way too hard. The low weight, tough tournaments where you're really happy to get 5 in the box. Like that's what I heard so many of the guys say is you just want to catch 5, just want to get 5, are a lot more relatable to the Midwest weekend grinders.
Mm-hmm.
The guys who go out, who are fishing on the river, who fish the Wednesday nighters where 3 for 5 gets the job done on the Arkansas River when it's, it's a little high and muddy. So
right.
I think I saw both positive and negative feedback. I saw a lot of people going, well, why do they keep going to the Sabine? Listen, this is just my take on it, but there are certain fisheries that I think have become synonymous or iconic with the Elite Series. There's been a lot of fisheries that professional bass fishing has gone to, historically, and it kind of depends on the Chamber of Commerce, depends on Wi-Fi signals, it depends on launch ramp facilities. That's one of the biggest things with Eufaula for a number of years in Oklahoma, why they didn't go to them. But however it ends up that way, the Sabine is always welcomed, and Orange, Texas there has always welcomed the Elite Series with open arms. Now, there's been some crazy stuff that's gone on with whether they can fish in Louisiana and what's closed water and what's not, and it's kind of a disaster down there where it's still on that. But to me, I like that it is a regular stop. I like that the guys have to get mentally prepared for it. I like that the game plan changes every couple of years. Like, do you run to Houston still, or is that now exposed? Or how far do you run? Or do you stay close to the ramp? Or where is the solidity? Or where is the high water and low water? And you could see those guys figuring that out during practice with redfish and flounder and gar and all sorts of other fish as they try to figure it out. The majority of them have a familiarity with it. I thought that the guys who had been there the most would probably thrive in this, but I mean, that was kind of the case there. I mean, you had Bill Lowen, or no, you didn't have Bill Lowen. I'm on the wrong. You had Kyle Welch, who's been there a number of times, Patrick Walters, Mullins, John Cruz in the top 10. But I mean, there's some younger guys on there that have only been there maybe once or twice there, Koya, Cooper. I thought it was interesting. I think it's good for the sport to have one, because that is part of bass fishing just as much as 5 to 8 pounders is part of bass fishing.
Right. For sure. It's just a total different mindset when you're going into those derbs, though, for sure. And that's the cool part. Those guys have to really dial it in. So
yeah. And every fish means something. So I did mention that Jay Shakurat still leading the Angler of the Year there. Chris Johnston in second, then Koya in third, Trey McKinney in fourth, and Will Davis Jr. in fifth. So if you go to the schedule, this is shaping up, in my opinion. I think I said this last year as well, and it kind of did. But if you look at what we have coming up, you have the Elite Series on 10 Killer, which is coming up June 12th to 15th. You fish 10 Killer bunch, that's going to be a very interesting tournament. Remember when Carl won it the last time they were there? It wasn't really a forward-facing deal, but largemouth, spots, smallmouth all play. Probably one on largemouth and smallmouth mixed, maybe a big spot here or there. But then you've got St. Clair, where Shakurat has had a lot of success there before, and then the Mississippi River out of lacrosse.
Yeah.
Which is largemouth, small. So one of the things that I like, and remember, Ish is weighed in a 24-pound bag of largemouth out of St. Clair before. So what I like about the last three is it's not just smallmouth. It's not like a Champlain, Thousand Islands, Erie type deal, which I haven't been to Erie in forever. But I like the fact that it's largemouth spot, smallmouth at 10 killer, smallmouth with maybe outside shot. I mean, you look at some of those guys there, and then Mississippi River, who knows how that's going to play out too.
Right.
Shakurit, Johnston, Koya, Trey, Will Davis. I'll just give like within 100 points. Patrick Walters, Bill Lowen, Shane LaHue, and Taku Itu. That's a cool group.
Oh yeah,
with a lot of experience, with a lot of knot. That's going to take it to the final three Bassmaster Leechers. I'm trying to pull up the heavy hitters that's going on over at Smith Mountain. I kind of feel like an idiot. I texted Matt Steff and I'm like, "Hey man, what are you up to?" And he's like, "Am I heavy hitters?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." That's going on over at Smith Mountain. One of the last or remaining MLF events that they do the split days on. So you've got 15 on the water one day, 15 on the water the next. Michael Neal comfortably in the lead as of, Monday, May 19th. And in the first group, Justin Lucas smoked everybody 65-15. He's on a roll, man. If he can start closing out the tournaments with the top 10, he's in a really good state. All right, so I've got some stuff on the table here. I was at the Outdoor Brains Team media events. Have you messed with that at all?
No, never. Never seen one in person like this.
Yeah,
it's interesting for sure. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's
the Koki ball. And it's called the Full Cast. And this, I'll show it to the screen a little bit more. This is what everybody has been going nuts over. You've seen some of the guys throw them. And I was at that OBT media event, and these guys were there, got in the boat with them, kind of learned how to throw it. I know, I would say out of the Elite Series, outside of probably Koya and Taku, Brian New has a bunch of these and has been messing with these quite a bit. He's got his whole thing, but I actually got this one. They come in like all these weird sizes. And I got this one. This is the Full Cast 108, just for the studio. I'm putting this in the studio, but I got some of the smaller ones. So I wanted to have this in the studio for when we recorded earlier. Like, you want to talk about unique things that have kind of taken off in the sport. I still don't have the hooks to rig this yet. It's like a drop shot hook, but it's got like a fluorocarbon loop on the back of the shank of the hook. Okay. And then you clip a drop shot weight into the back. So then you actually have, think of it like a little bit like a swing head where the weight's below. So that thing is hovering just off, and then you sit there and shake it. Okay. But yeah, if any of you guys have had any success on this, on like the big one, like I know everyone's shaking a big minnow and stuff, and then you see like some weird stuff always show up in the top 10s, especially with the Japanese anglers. I'd be very interested, but we got on the water last week with it, and then continuing the show and tell. This is for the old school listeners, and we had an old school guy. We had Pat Schlapper. Really good to see him get that win. That is as old and as old school as it gets.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The OG, I found that cleaning out the garage. The OG green Curado.
And it's a 3-8 to 1.
Yeah, make sure you're talking into the mic.
Okay.
It is a 3.8 to 1 gear ratio retrieve on. Oh, they're working on my truck. I just got a low tire pressure alert on it. I was like, what's going on? This is, if anyone has ever thrown this was one of the first reels that Mark Jeffries ever gave me when I started interning at the Bass Zone. It is a Bantam Curado, old school green, Shimano Curado, 200 B38, 5 bearings. And if you watch, it takes for the worm spool to go back and forth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes 5 cranks of the handle just for the line cross just to go across the worm bearing. I don't know if this will ever see. I wanted to bring this and put it in studio.
You probably wrote 6 articles for that one, didn't you? You used to work for Tackle instead of money.
Yeah, no, with Mark. Yeah, no. I did do an article on the gear ratios. I know on the slow retrieve. And then one more thing before we get into it, and like I said, I wanted to get you on for a show that was originally going to be recorded, but is live. Also, by the way, we have a really cool show on Wednesday coming up. Byron Velvick is going to be live and join us to talk all things. I know he's been on Bass After Dark a couple times, and then he called me up and he was like, "Hey, bro." He actually said shooter. He goes, "Hey, shooter." And I was like, "Oh, what's up, Byron?" And he's got some really cool stuff going on, doing a little bit of guiding and fishing, and we're going to catch up. And he was way ahead of the curve when it came to a lot of techniques that he was using back on the Elite Series earlier. He was like one of the very first guys I'd ever seen with the Whopper Plopper in the boat. This was way before it blew up in that fall open of 18 or 15, I think.
Yeah.
The fall open of 15. He was throwing it before, like 2-3 years before that. Or had it in the boat, at least. That'll be a funny story. The swim baits, the way he was doing that, with the Clear Lake and the line through swim baits. One of the first line through swim baits that I can remember. Obviously, you had maybe some Ospreys, Talons, some stuff out there, but that Rego BV3D that he used, I want to go back to that. That was one of the first line ones. But so we'll get into that on Wednesday. I wanted to get into what it's like in 2025 trying to start a small tackle company, which is what you did. I've had you on to talk about, oh, hey, you're selling some jigs or you're going to have it. But what's happened with you over the last 6 months is really cool. And I think a really good kind of case study as far as starting making what it actually is like, what it isn't. And actually, you hear a lot of the people in the industry and outside of the industry talk about, and we're not going to get into this debate at all, but talk about how forward-facing sonar is killing tackle companies and manufacturers and things like that, which I understand. A lot of hard bait sales are down based on how you do it. We're doing new marketing strategies. I think you're going to see a lot of new things come out from traditional companies at ICAST that cater to that. And then who knows if it's all going to change in the next 2 years, right, and then we have to revert back to it. But your business, it's an LLC business now, Juice's Jigs,
for sure,
probably doesn't exist without forward-facing sonar.
Yeah, it does not.
So you are actually a small tackle company in a growing segment that is benefiting from the technology, not being hurt from it.
No.
So we'll get into that. Before we do, I'd be remiss. So this came out last week. I'm really proud of this. This is super fun. I got an invite from Phil and Bob, and they are the Mountain Duo. I didn't tell you about this.
No, this is super interesting.
So I had a box show up on my doorstep a couple weeks ago, and that was in it. Okay. Read that out loud.
So it's the Baja Cabo Citrus Mountain Dew.
So these guys, just like we get on and talk about bass fishing every day, they do Mountain Dew reviews. So I got a PDF that had, a big questionnaire, and you rank it on 1 to 5, taste, color, smell, well, all sorts of different stuff. And then just like we do on BTL, I'm going to share the entire screen right here. Oh, it's just them. There's no way that listens to the show. Oh, oops. I have to remove that 1 second. I didn't add the audio, but they invited me to be a guest on the show, which I did a lot of research for. Got it. And this is just a sample of it. Like I said, we talked for 45 minutes about the Mountain Dew Baja Cabo citrus flavor. And
So there you go. You can see it is a beautiful.
There it is. I've got it in a
Orange.
wine glass. I was going through the color palette right now.
Definitely,
Definitely
orange.
I would have
was not-
rated it
I
higher.
did not
but
know what
it is
color
an orange.
to
It is a color
expect
orange.
because there's a lot
it
of
looks
that
a little
turquoise.
bit like. Yeah, then Drunkwood said it must have been hard up to get guests. Probably. It looked a little bit like Mountain Dew, the Live Wire, but it's orange. So they were both big fans of orange. So I had to stand my ground and say, well. I said, I'm a graduate of the University of Oklahoma. I said, now this isn't burn orange, but it's like right in between OSU orange and Texas orange. I was like, so I only gave it. Well, you'll have to go and watch it. It's the Mountain Duo, the MOUNTAINDUO on YouTube. I'll put the link in the description of the show on this. I think that would be but I really enjoyed jumping on that.
That's
so
interesting.
I appreciate it.
I didn't even know that existed. So that's pretty cool.
It was super cool. I was pumped to get in on it. All right, we're gonna take our first break of the show. When we come back, we're gonna dive into starting a lure company attack. What do you call yourself? Because you're not tackle. It's not a lure. It's hair jigs exclusively and jig heads.
Yeah, jig heads and it's basically just tying. I mean, it's because I do all kinds of different things. So,
but we'll get into what that's like in 2025. I want to talk to you about the classic. I want to talk to you about I mean, like, are guys slide into your DMs? Like, do you have guys that you're watching on the TV on Saturdays and Sundays that are going, hey, and then how do these guys hear about this stuff? How do you get your hands on it? How does this work? Can you make any money in today's day and age? How do the tariffs affect a small business guy like yourself? And working just internationally and in-house. And you've got a lot of different pieces of the puzzle that I think is interesting because you kind of have it dialed in now as much as you can have it dialed in. And we will talk about that. But it is BTO on a Monday, a busy Monday. Talking with Jarrett Morrison from Juice's Jigs. We'll be back right after this. Pro Bass Adventures is reinventing Mexico bass fishing. With boats equipped with 12-inch Garmin units and LiveScope Plus, free loaner fishing rods, and no-cost airport transportation, Pro Bass Adventures is proudly putting you in the best position for success. Pro Bass Adventures has lodges on Lake Baccarat and Lake El Salto, Mexico's two best trophy largemouth bass lakes. Visit probassadventures.com or email probassadventures@gmail.com. The official Mexico fishing lodge of Bass Talk Live.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu. But there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it. And also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly, gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really, really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
Hey guys, Brian Schmidt here with Spro. I'm going to talk to you about the confidence I have in the equipment I use. You know, I have a charter boat business back home in Maryland. We fish for saltwater fish, and I also fish the Bassmasters Elite Series. So I keep my lights on by fishing. I have to have a lot of confidence in the equipment I use Spro has me covered from head to toe, salt water, fresh water, everything in between. A lot of high-end quality product. Spro has you covered.
All right, welcome back, BTO, on a Monday, talking with Juice and Jigs. And let's get into it. So, if you know, Juice has been on the show. Well, you've been on the show like 3 or 4 times, but never. Have you ever been on for an actual like full show?
This is the first.
Yeah. I kind of sprung it on you too.
Yeah, for sure.
For those who don't know, who are casual listeners, long story short, Juice and I, your name's Jarrett Morrison. Career in oil and gas company, been everything from a landman to land rights. What is that?
Just basically a landman.
Landman.
Yeah.
Basically, like they have in where we live in Oklahoma and then up through Colorado, Texas, that whole thing. There's, well, you did it like in 20 seconds. Basically, they have to get oil from point A to point B. But in order to go through that, you have to put pipe through 75 different private landowners or public or whatever. It's your job to figure out who owns that land and what it takes to get the pipe through there.
Pretty much.
In a layman's terms.
All the legal permitting.
That's what I understand that you've done for your whole life.
Yeah, pretty much building pipelines and dealing with all the land and legal aspect of the business. So,
and fishing. Those are the jerseys there. If you see in the BTL studio, we got the 2 OU. No, Juice was always going to be on the show today. It's just going to be on an hour later on a recorded show and not live. And I think that you would have been more comfortable on the recorded show because you knew we could have just nixed it and started over.
Yeah, exactly. That's not the part. That was the part that I was looking forward to. It's like, yes.
No, you get used to it. So, long story short, you got into, was it day 4 that got you interested in kind of tying the crappie jigs at least? Yeah.
Well, I started doing a lot more crappie fishing and then was buying a lot of hand-tied hair jigs, and then decided, that I wanted a vise for my birthday and asked for my wife. I went and picked out my vise and exactly what I was wanting, something that I could do smaller hooks and all the way up to larger bass hooks, because I'm a bass guy by heart, and I just, and so, I just started tying my own crappie jigs, and then I just started kind of evolving, tying my own bass stuff from silicone stuff all the way to unique hair jigs. So
to date, and then we're going to circle back, but I want to start with where it is now and then circle back because it makes sense then. Do you know how many Juice's jigs are in circulation on the water right now over the last 2 years that you've sold, 2 to 3 years, like the hair Mickeys, the normal bearded hair Mickeys, that whole thing? Like, do you know how many have gone out the door roughly?
I would say probably close to 1,000 to 1,200 total.
So, all hand tied,
all by me,
all by you. Yeah.
Until, just this last January.
But do you remember the first bass jig that you sold? Like, when was the first time? I know you sold some crappie jigs, messed around. There's a bunch of guys that dabble in that crappie world. We're actually going to dive into that in October when Crappie Talk Live kicks off. But do you remember the first random guy that wasn't a buddy that you were like, try this out? That wasn't something that was like, hey, I want to buy one of these to fish for bass?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's Funk.
The funky fisherman.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. He's always lurking.
Yeah, man. So yeah, he was the first one that a person that I didn't really know personally that wanted something to try. So he's kind of the first that was not in my circle of friends. So,
and how did it kind of evolve? Because hair's huge up north. When you think of down south, and these are ones that you tied to, but traditionally when you think of down south, you think of stuff like what is this, the feather duster?
No, that's the birdie.
The big hair, the stuff that you're popping, that you're catching.
Right.
This is actually the one that we caught him on at Shawnee Twin.
Right.
But what was it that made you think, hey, this could play in the bass world, because it's not this and it's not the marabou that they throw up north. It's something in between, which existed before, in all fairness. Like, you didn't like invent this
No.
By any means, but you really are kind of refining it seems.
Mm-hmm. Dialing it in.
Yeah. What made you kind of transition from the crappie to the bass jigs?
Just literally always being on, like, just time on the water, honestly. Like, I crappie fish a lot just due to my, availability. So I don't get to go to the best bass lakes, but a lot of times I'm fishing around structure that has bass and I see them, and I was always kind of messing around, and I would scope them with a 12-foot long rod on a crappie jig, and I kept catching, and I tied some unique crappie stuff to that had a bigger profile. Mm-hmm. and you and I like the bigger baits. We catch a lot of big crappie on bigger profile baits where, it's not the small stuff.
3, 4, 5 inch crappie jigs.
Yeah. And especially, we have a place on Lake Eufaula that has big crappie. And what I found out was, I was getting those big crappie to bite. And then I could consistently go out and not target bass and catch 15 to 18 pounds just with a long rod crappie fishing with the similar hair jigs that I'm trying to catch big crappie with, and I'm catching quality bass. And so finally, it was July of 22. I literally always take my fly tie, or, my fly vise, and all my materials to the lake. And, I went and tied a bunch of 1/4 and 3/16 ounce jig heads that I had, and went out there and just pretty much tried to target bass on the 4th of July weekend, which was insane. But, consistently had 15 to 19 pounds on that hair jig, just fishing, summertime bass in Oklahoma. So that's kind of where, the hair Mickey started. So,
you went through the process then. Was it tough going like the LLC route and actually turning it into a company? Like, when did you decide that you needed to do that and that you were actually going to take this serious instead of just tying for friends and maybe making some beer money on the side?
I mean, when I had 25 orders deep and I was, had 2 to 3 month waiting list.
And is these local guys or are these random guys on Instagram and Facebook when you just posted some and then they would just slide into the DMs and say, hey, can you make me some?
Yeah, literally people from the West Coast, like out in Cali, all the way to Oregon, Tennessee, Erie. I mean, just kind of all over the place. Michigan. I had some folks from Michigan, and even Georgia and Alabama. So, and a couple of Florida guys.
Really?
Yeah. I forgot about that. So,
and it was like at that point. So at the first couple, I remember you were talking to me. You're like, dude, someone wants to, this is cool. Like someone from a different state, like
right.
For some reason, like there were mutual friends that we had. And then they got a hold of me and like, you had no clue on how much to charge, how long it took, anything. You were just buying stuff, and you were actually buying a lot of you were tying stuff on Horizon heads, you're tying stuff on range rollers, you're tying stuff on the Tato Designs, dirty jigs, hooks, like everything. You were just trying to kind of just experiment with it.
100%. I was just trying to figure out, what people liked,
At what point did the first like professional angler reach out to you?
So it would have been Robert G. Right before the Classic in Tulsa. So that week in March, he had contacted me and asked me he sent me a picture of a minnow in his hand. And he goes, do you think you can tie a hair jig?
And you didn't know Robert G?
Never met him.
No one connected you?
No.
Slid into the DMs?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I tied a bunch for him, and just sent it to him. And I said, here you go, dude. Just, he tried to pay me. And I was like, look, man, we're just gonna, how about you, if you go have some success on me, give me a shout out, and, next thing I know, I'm live on FS1 on the Smith Lake event, and he's almost winning the whole thing on my hair. So
that is kind of where it went off. So I've got Smith Lake pulled up and I want to do it. So you sent, and you obviously don't, you're not tying for a specific spot or tournament. You don't know when it's going to play.
Right.
So you sent him a box of hair.
Yep.
And then literally, this is interesting to me because people are saying, oh, there's no value, or there's a lot of diminished value in what the Elite Series guys do, what the BPT guys throw. Because now there's more influence, not as many people are watching it and things, but you were on FS1 for 3 hair jig catches for Robert G, who didn't, I'm guessing he's not, you and him, I'm not trying to get into it. I'm guessing it's not a massively lucrative financial deal on Robert G's end on this. Like, it's not like you're giving him a 6-figure payday to say, hey, I caught this on Juice's Jigs.
Right.
Just, if you know Robert G's style and your style, it's an Oklahoma, Georgia battle, that kind of working on it. But that being said, so Robert G has it, and remind you, when this goes down, this is before he went like second at the end of the year and almost won and had all the crazy stuff go down on the St. Lawrence River. So I don't want to say an unknown, but a relatively under the radar angler at this time. Makes that cut and has camera in the boat at Smith Lake and mentions Juice's Jigs a couple times, but you can see the hair. He's the only one that's throwing hair like that. If I remember correctly, walk me through what that was like from the time he was live on air with that for the next 48 hours.
So, yeah, my inbox was, so I was actually, when that was all going down, I was trying to watch it live because he had sent me a text saying, hey, I caught quite a few key fish this week on your hair jig, and I'm going to put your jig in the top 10. And of course I was, very thankful for that and thought that was pretty awesome. And so on Sunday, I'm taking a buddy of mine to go fish for his birthday. And so we've got it on the speaker, on the speaker on my boat and just listening to it. But I've in a really crappy service area. And so I'm delayed and I'm getting texts from all my friends. Dude, he caught it. He just gave you a live shout out. And I have no idea because my service was so bad. And so, but yeah, it was pretty awesome. So, and then after that, it was just pure chaos. I got, 200 messages a day from people wanting, it was for about 2 weeks straight. It was like anywhere from 50 to 200, Instagram messages a day. It was nuts. It was so hard to.
And you're working a full-time job, and not exactly. This is just like a hobby for you at this point.
Yeah. It's just something fun to do.
Here it is, right here. I'm going to pull this up. There it is, right there. There's Robert G, a jighead minnow, and he didn't even say it there. And a hybrid crappie jig did the trick for G, and then a key bait was this hand-tied crappie hair jig, upsized to a 3/8 ounce size, making it ideal for bass applications. And there's a picture of a very beat-up Tennessee shad colored Juice's Jigs that Robert G was throwing. And like I said, there's a couple videos of him catching them on the hair.
Right
there. So that was a direct result of a relationship with, and I'll say it at the time, an incoming, relatively unknown Elite Series angler, and just that limited amount of exposure was still that valuable to a small lure company like you.
It was insane. Yeah, it's extremely valuable. It matters.
Yeah, here's Sean. He goes, LOL. He goes, Juice replied to my message at like 12:30 at night, and I felt bad that he was replying to every single one of his DMs at that. So, how did you manage that? Like, what was your strategy? How did you get your head around it? When did you, like, what was the way that you went about trying to make sense of it instead of just being 100 orders behind for the rest of your life?
Yeah. So at that time, I had like 23 orders like in the hopper in the backlog. And I, I'm a man of my word. Like I'd already told these folks that, hey, I'm going to, I'll get you your jigs. And so I basically just like grinded all of my orders that I owed to everybody and decided I was like, I can't do this. And I'm not.
So you stopped taking new orders.
I did. I had to, just, cause it was insane. I was staying up till like 1, 2 in the morning, just trying to get all this stuff out. And then that way I could just then I could really take a step back and figure out what's the best path forward, and for a guy like me that I have limited time, I coach all my kids' sports, I'm a husband and a father first, always. And then I have a career, that requires a lot of time and effort as well with my full-time job. So, with that all being said, it was just like, okay, let's just do, bait drops. And I'm a glide bait guy. And, I've been a glide bait guy since like 08, 09, when you and I first started throwing those. And, Freddie took us out, on Grand Lake and gave us some Roman maids and said, here you go, boys. So, and so like I learned how highly sought after the KGB was and how, they were doing it. And I was like, this is the only way it's going to work for me, with my time and availability. So
you got caught back up. And when is this? Is this like last year, a year ago?
Last July, basically.
And between then, and you don't have to like name names or anything, but if you were to say out of the top 100 anglers between the Elite Series and the Bass Pro Tour, and like I said, you don't have to say any names if you don't want to. No. Out of the top 100 anglers, how many have sent you a DM completely out of the blue? Like you're not reaching out to them or anything. Like it's guys that are wanting to make sure they're on the cutting edge of what's coming out next. How many of the top 100 would you say have been like, hey, any chance I could get some of these?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably 30, 40, maybe. Like
30 or 40
from both.
Are you kidding? So between the BPT and the Elite Series, there's been 30 of those guys that have sent you a DM.
Yeah, but not all of them, like, have followed through. You know? So
wow.
But
wow, I didn't realize it was that many.
Well, I don't promote that stuff.
Yeah, out
man.
of the
It's
top
like
20 in the world, how many would you say have sent you a DM?
10.
Yeah.
So
how did you finalize it to where we are today? You were at the Bassmaster Classic. You were in the Lucky Lure booth. I know you work with Michael Strauns.
Nailed it.
Who owns Lucky Lure, just on kind of that side of it. Where do you stand now? How have you been able to kind of get your head or manage this thing? We're actually, I mean, you see it like with the Sakamata shads now, like when they're out, it goes nuts. We saw it with the chatterbaits. You can watch that documentary. Now, I'm not putting you on that level or anything. You're a dude who's tying hair. It's not, this isn't like a world changing thing. You're just doing it really good and you're doing it to specs that guys want to use it to catch bass.
Right.
But, it comes to a point where you're like, okay, I need help on this. I need to get my head around it. I need to figure out the business side of it because this isn't something where it's like, my God, I sold another jig this week. Yeah. Talk about that process.
So, I mean, basically I realized I can't do this by myself. So, I sought out some young former college anglers, 2 guys, that tie for me, Eric and Mason Mitchell. And, he's actually a camera guy for the Outdoor Channel. And so, with their schedules, both of them work in the fishing industry. So they work events or, fishing shows, and it allows them to tie whenever, and they can travel with their, material and vise and tie in their hotel rooms at night. So, I just wanted to try to figure out a way to scale up, and be consistent, be more consistent, because my time is not always consistent. So if I can get, 2 or 3 guys to help me out to lighten the load but what I do is so specific, and everything, you say it's just hair, but it's really not, because there's so much more to it when it comes to how I do it. That's what makes a difference versus the store-bought hair jig, because of so many different aspects. So that's the uniqueness. And so it takes a while to get people on board. But I just hired another 3rd tire, literally the last 2 weeks ago. And it's a good friend of mine that, and that's the biggest thing too, is like, it's a trust thing, because what I do is super unique, and, I just don't show anybody that, so everybody signs a contract. And I hired an attorney, to protect myself. And, before I show anybody how I tie them, they sign that agreement that basically with no, non-solicitation, they can't rip it off. And
yeah, I think Jeffrey's made me sign one of those. It's like, hey, if you bounce, you can't do anything like in a fishing media podcast, whatever, for 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. Yeah. Non-compete clause.
Yeah. And with my background in oil and gas, like, I understand how businesses work and how to run a business, because I've worked in a small private equity group for the last, 11 years. And so I've learned the business side more, from that, and trying to basically take what I've learned from that and run, budgets, just like thinking things through and being proactive and stay ahead of it. That's the biggest thing.
One of the things that is also unique about it is you tie a lot on tungsten. Then you can get into this as much as you want, but you started out literally buying off of Omnia or whatever. You would pay full price, buy a pack of jig heads, and then tie your hair on it. I thought it was really cool the way you researched and reached out. Is it called sourcing it?
Yeah, I'm sourcing my own.
Whatever
tungsten.
you want to say about that. I know you have some big things that are coming down the pipeline that you can't really announce yet.
Right.
But up until the stuff you're not allowed to talk about yet, talk about that process of finding economical but quality tungsten.
Yeah, so I spent it was a little bit over a year and a half literally sourcing my own tungsten, trying to, because I was tying crappie jigs and I wanted high-end crappie jigs. So I was like, well, I'm going to figure out a way to do my own tungsten jig heads. We can't make them here, so I literally nerded out and contacted multiple suppliers and had them send me samples for a year and a half until I finally found, something that, was palatable that I would fish with, because that's my biggest thing is like quality's everything, no matter what, like above and beyond anything. If I'm going to put my name on it, if I'm going to tie on it, I want it to be, something quality. So, I spent a year and a half doing that. So it was, and a lot of these folks would just send me them, but some it was so funny. Like you'd have to pay, like I'm buying 10 jig heads just for samples and from other countries. So yeah, it was quite the experience. And, with the time difference, so there's a lot of late nights, like when my supplier, I'm up till 1 or 3 o'clock in the morning, that's when they're at work, and we're, running through the process of like what hook sizes I want with each jig head and working through that stuff. So
you made 500 for the classic that was at Fort Worth this past year, and you charged how much you charge a piece for those jigs?
$25.
$25. I got it pulled up on the website now, so I'm looking at a hair jig that was $25, and I know that I had some conversations with other people behind the scenes. Like, dude, Juice is going to charge $25. I'll be very curious. Part of me was like, oh, guys won't blink at it because what is that? UV coating or something.
So I UV resin finish.
Yeah, UV resin. And then I also was like, there's also the FOMO factor now where you've got limited. There are other guys that are like, there's no way I'd pay $25 for one hair jig, especially, a light one, not like, like a birdie like that or something. It just, even though it's probably costs the exact same, it just feels like you're getting more for it.
Right.
And you did a limited drops every day of the classic and sold every single one that you took.
Pretty much. Yeah. Cause I think I had like 24 jigs left, and they were already sold to friends that couldn't make it to the classic. Cause I've kind of shut off some of my friends. I'm like, dude, you got to buy them at the drop. I can't make special conditions because it gets overwhelming, you know? So, but
was that when you realized, like, okay, this is viable here, when guys were lined up at the Lucky Lure booth waiting for it to open so they could get their limit of 3 hair jigs a person?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you know, my thought process on the pricing is like, my hair jigs hold up well. I mean, I've got guys catching literally 50 to 70 fish off of the same hair jig. I mean, there's not a hair jig out there that...
I don't think I've caught 50 to 75 fish this year.
but I mean, you'll pay $25 for a mega bass jerk bait. You know what I mean? So that hair is going to hold up, and I don't, from a quality standpoint, you're not going to go through them, and you're not going to lose them. You don't lose a whole lot, unless you break one off or, aren't paying attention. So.
So this is where it kind of becomes a double-edged sword, and I put this in the category of the glide baits, right? Because you have time, you have the uniqueness of it, you have the brand behind it. I don't want to say you're the OG, but in like the tournament world, and that I'm not aware. Now, listen, if you're a northern dude, if you're where the hair jigs are, I'm sure there are hair jig masters that have been tying things very similar to this for decades. For 100 years. I mean, ever since fishing, like hair, bucktail. That. I mean, I know Spro's like best-selling product, bucktail jig. Yeah. Out of all the things that they have, it's that friggin' just white bucktail jig.
Right.
Is this, in your opinion, is this scalable, or is this something that will always be a side project? What's the growth? Like, to me, and talking to you, which I talk to you pretty much every day, it seems like very difficult to try to figure out like how to grow it, because the beauty is in the uniqueness, small batch, and the hand-tied aspect of it, that you can't go to an academy, that you can't and just pick it up.
Right.
Is that kind of like your greatest strength and your greatest weakness when it comes to hand-tied stuff like this?
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing is it takes so much time to teach people to do it the right way. And I'm so OCD and want everything done to a T, because it's all about the balance. It's all about all of these things that people don't like. If you get a hair jig and you tie hair jigs, but if you don't know the purpose behind it, you don't know what you don't know. And so like those type of things that I do differently, but it takes time to teach people. And, scaling is in the uniqueness. And I like this, I love small businesses, like I support small businesses. I try to do that over, me personally, over some of the big stuff, the big chains and whatever. But, the scaling is I don't want to lose the quality. Scaling up and just throwing something out there that it's not going to be, as good as what we, as what I do. And so that's kind of the slippery slope of scaling or versus just staying unique and small batches, and just, your supply, doesn't meet the demand. So,
because still, I mean, every single one that goes out the door, your hands touch. Your wife helps with the packaging and the labels and all that. I mean, it is truly,
it's old school.
Comes out of your garage.
Yeah.
And you're tying late at night after baseball practice.
Mm-hmm.
Which is part of the beauty in it. I mean, you look at the scalable, and I thought that was one of the cool projects that KGB did with Spro, was when they took, remember when we would, oh crap, I forgot. I shouldn't have brought that up. So You get one of them back.
Ugh.
You can't get the other one back though. The
I
other
just
one,
want to see it. how
it's
set
nothing.
up.
I just weighted it differently, and it like I didn't realize those things like break in, just like the rest of them. Anyway, we co-parent a couple Chad sheds. And
You've hoarded them for the last 3
I've had them
years.
for a while. No, I'll do a trade. I got a couple that I'll trade you with for that one, or one. It'll be a 1-to-1.
Okay.
But that was one of the cool projects is when Spro went, okay, we're gonna make this bait that one guy knows how to make, and we're gonna put it in a Spro lineup to where you can go into a Bass Pro Shops or an Omnia or whatever, order it online and pick it up, and you've got a glide at a reasonable cost. You know, it went from $200 down to what, $50, $40. And it took them years to get that right, to get that. But that's a hard plastic bait. Like I think it's even harder to do it with hair, because as much as you try hair, to me a hair jig is similar to balsa or a hand carved flat side or a hand carved square bill crankbait, to where there's still some artistry that's involved, and it's not like once you get it down you can't just copy and paste. You still have to have that human element, which is what makes it amazing, but also what makes it maddening to try to capitalize on.
Right. Yeah. Then there's only so much time in a day, so,
yeah.
But
so the way you're planning, you do it now is just drops.
Yeah. 100% drops. No orders, no waiting list. Basically, and I do have my own website. I built my website over the last couple of months, and plan to have my next drop probably after Memorial Day, probably that first 2 weeks in June. And then
will those be available on the website at all? You'll put some on the website.
Yeah, everything will be handled through my website going forward. Unless I may work with Lucky Lure on some special drops, just because I love Lucky Lure. They've been really good to me, and I'm good friends with Michael, and so I want to keep doing things with them and do my own thing.
Can we do a BTL drop?
We can.
Remember that color I was talking to you about?
I can design a special BTL color for sure.
And we could do like a drop, and then what if? Now I'm just spitballing.
Oh God, here we go.
What if? Because you fished that St. Jude with Frankie Jr. Congratulations, by the way, you guys.
Oh,
if you guys had figured out how to catch, it's a 6-fish limit. You had like 5 for how much? 15?
Yeah.
On the second day?
Yeah, 1492
yeah,
or something
if you
like
had
that.
one more fish, you would have beat us, and B, cash a nice check.
Yeah.
What if we work on a BTL Juices Jigs drop for fall or early winter?
Yeah.
Like when these things
Start doing their thing.
are doing their thing, and then we split the proceeds of that and donate it to St. Jude.
Yeah, and it goes to each of our teams.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. We'll do like an auction. Got to figure that out, how to do that. But
Yeah, I think we do. We'll figure out the details.
yeah, we'll do
on
some
that.
juice box. Like we'll do some juice box auctions.
Yeah, but I mean, you can do that on your own to raise money. I'm assuming you guys are fishing.
That's
that
what I'm
next year
planning
too,
to do.
right?
Yeah, we're gonna fish it again next year.
I just want to do a couple BTL custom,
Okay.
a BTL custom color. We did that with that BFE a couple years ago, and I think they still, we're not with Big Bite anymore. I think they still have the BTL color.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's a good color.
yeah. No, it'll be something similar. It'll be something similar to that. But I'm just like looking, and I've been pulling up some of the jigs here. What has been your experience? Like, are there knockoffs? Have you noticed a lot more jigs that look similar? Like, what has that been like? Does that concern you that, hey, it is just a jig head and types of hair, and once guys can tie it, their Juices Jigs is no longer special? Or are you looking at this as like, the way I look at it is like, hey, there's still that name attached to it. So it's like, when Gary Yamamoto molded the damn Cinco out of a ballpoint pen, you know, whether you're throwing a Yum Dinger or a whatever, a sassy stick or whatever brand calls it, everyone still calls the thing a Cinco. And when the rubber meets the road, you know, a lot of guys are still buying the Yamamoto pack, even though they know they're going to lose that thing after one fish. Is that kind of the situation you're in, or is there a lot more competition that's kind of evolved over the last year?
There's been quite a bit of competition and a lot of guys that follow me just to copy me. And that kind of just, because now
is that an issue, or is that something in the hair jig community where like you guys spawn a lot of ideas off of each other?
I mean, so I have kind of kept this one close to my vest because of how special, like, because I've caught so many fish on it and like I know what it can do, and big fish. You know, I don't worry about that. Like what other people, if people copy me, you can only control what you're in control of, right? So like I'm kind of one of those guys, I kind of put my blinders up and I'm just going to continue to do my own thing and not worry about that stuff, you know, and produce quality stuff, because there's nuances. And then, you know, guys that tie, like we try not to copy each other exactly. That's kind of one of the unspoken rules. Does that make sense? Like that's the kind of thing in the hair world where you don't verbatim, like, I mean, I do some stuff similar to other folks, but what I do is slightly different in every aspect. Like I try to make, you know, put my own twist on it and make it better. So
all right, we're gonna take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. Full disclosure, like, I mean, we're not. I mean, you don't sponsor BTL. Like, this is not a paid advertisement of it. I'm really just hoping to try to get a couple jigs off of them for a couple derbies that are coming up. But we'll take our final break of the show when we come back. More with Jarrett Morrison of Juices Jigs BTL on a Monday. We'll be back right after this.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water anchors. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Breaks Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Breaks, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Breaks Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top 100, Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFCO. Any fish, any.
Beatdown is efficient.
Rock solid.
100% American made. This thing is super tough. I mean, this thing is not going anywhere.
I've ran the Beatdown double stack from Florida all the way up to New York. And the one thing that I know is when I get to my fishing destination, I never have to worry about issues with my graph mount.
Your options are endless with these mounts, but they're steady, they're solid. These are the most reliable mounts on the market, and you can't go wrong with the Beatdown.
When you're ready to hit the water, Denali Fishing has you covered. Regardless of your skill level, from beginner all the way up to tournament pro, Denali has rods, reels, and tungsten to get the job done.
Check them out at denalifishing.com.
Welcome back, BTL on a Monday. Talking with Jarrett Morrison of Juices Jigs. Before we get into it, my buddy Blake Charter I fished the Opens with.
Right.
It was kind of badass. So he both zeroed the second day of Kentucky Lake in the Opens. And we were tied the first day. We both had one for like 2.9 or something like that. It was bad. So we were like, oh, I was like, I just want a top 200 finish. That's what I'm shooting for that. Anyway, I'm off the water. He rolls up. We're like, what are you doing back? Like, you didn't like, we were back before we should have been, right? Because we didn't have to wait in line. We didn't have to do anything. We chuck our buoys and their markers in the deal and then turn around and do the idle of shame. And it was the first day I zeroed in an open. It was awful. But then he goes on like a rampage, wins like, I think back-to-back Fishers of Men, top 10s, multiple Toyota series, weighs in a 32-pound bag. Like, he got mad at him after that. He's like, that's the last damn time that's going to happen. But he's down in Dallas, big Stars fan, and has playoff tickets. And so invited me and Court to go to the game 6 2 nights ago, Dallas versus Winnipeg, which I avoided the first potential snafu when the Blues got eliminated because, I grew up a Blues fan, and then they didn't have to play the Stars so that I could root for the Stars. But similarly, you're not a hockey guy.
No.
Used to call me a Yankee every time I was, but similarly, the Jets, and I'm sure some of you know this, have a goalie named Connor Hellebuck, and he is the number one goalie in the world. He is the Team USA's, goalie in 4 days. He's the man right now. Amazing. So we got to go to game 6, which was which the Stars won 2-1 in overtime. Hellebuck made some insanely good saves, but I'm going somewhere fishing with this, folks. He is a diehard. I think he's got a brother too that fishes like the Bass Nation and is buddies with a bunch of guys that I know and stuff. But Connor's like friends with Gussie. They fish together, and one of the cool things is every mask that he has like incorporates some element of fishing into it. It's like the one he's got on the top. This was like last year's one. You can see it's like literally a jighead minnow getting eaten by a big largemouth. He's had one where he had his PB of him with this northern strain largemouth airbrushed onto the side of the mask.
Oh, wow.
Like he's got this jumping largemouth on the top of his, but it was a bummer that they got. I was like super pumped that the Stars won, but it was a bummer because that's a cool ass dude there. Like I didn't want him to get knocked out, and he was like absolutely phenomenal in it. But wanted to give that a shout out. I know with the Stanley Cup and the playoffs going on there, he was like a super easy guy to root with. I was chatting with Gussie and Mercer about it all series there, and then the debacle that the Leafs went through last night. They've lost like 8 game 7s in a row dating back to the last.
It's like the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, like they look really good, and then when they lose, they typically do it in like spectacular fashion. So like last night, it went from 0-0 to like 5-1, like that, which doesn't happen in hockey. So what's the plan moving forward then? Just drops? Do you have it? Like, are you looking at this still as a side deal? Is this going to be part of a career? Are you going to leave everything and support a family of 4 on what is it, like Milek or Micelle and chicken and bucktail?
Honestly, right now this is going to continue to be a side hustle. I mean, I'm super passionate about it. I mean, you probably, and I kind of feel bad for you at times because I'm super passionate about it and I'd love to do it, I love the outdoors and love fishing and would love, I've always wanted to be a part of it in some way, I'd love to do it full time, but it just doesn't make sense right now. It's not even realistic at this point. So, I'm just going to continue to do drops and, see what happens, man. Like, I'll just slowly start scaling, that's the big thing is, scaling up. What is Drunkwood?
No, I'm reading Sean's comments.
Oh, okay. but yeah, no, I just right now, mainly just going to keep it as a side hustle. Just for now, we're just like, cause I don't think my wife is going to let me go full time.
Sean said it's very hard to scale up. You need skilled laborers. And then he said, juice, just have more kids, and teach them to tie for their dinners. He said, then you're spending quality time with your kids. My mom put me on the crab rangoon fryer when I was 10.
I'll take that in consideration, but we'll have to undo some things.
Do you have anything there you want to share before we wrap this up and get tornado prepared?
Yeah, so I'll just show you a new color that I've been working on.
You're not going to tick anyone off with this, are you?
No.
All right.
Maybe not. Maybe I'll wait. So
yeah.
So I've got some new cool baits. I don't know if you want to hold that up. So it's a little prop bait, Haramiki style prop bait. So it's tied on a shin spin, a green tackle shin spin. So I actually tie these for my son Parker, and he catches the crap out of
he's
spotted bass.
He just cast and reel.
Yeah, cast and reel.
So it's like a marabou hair jig mixed with a minnow, mixed with a spy bait.
Yeah, it's kind of and it catches them. I had some guys catch them this weekend in some tournaments. So, it works well. So those will be on the next drop. And then I've got some underspins, some tungsten underspins that I've been working on. So just, trying to kind of keep, do some different things. And I've done some, I just recently tied some tungsten wobble heads and did some hybrid hair, like wobble heads, that I've done, my hybrid hair football jigs. I've caught a lot of fish on those, and I have had some friends have some tournaments success with those. So I was, one of my buddies asked me to tie him some. One of my really good friends that I have a deer lease with, and we fish together a lot, and he's been bugging me about it for a while. So I figured I would, we'll try it out. So, and they turned out really good. So I'm going to continue to do different things, but, we've got some new colors coming down. I'm still always working on different colors, matching different natural bait fish, and just trying to be unique. And I've got one that we're not going to talk about, but it's
color or jig.
Jig.
Are you not coming out with that?
Oh, I'm going to, but like I've got to scale.
There's a very good chance that that's going to be a $40 hair jig, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it
kind of has to be.
It takes time, and it's very labor intensive, but dude, it's awesome.
In theory, you should be able to use 2 of them all summer. Unless you live in a pikey region.
Yeah, screw that.
But that's the same thing with glides. Yeah. A lot of those guys up north, they throw all of the readily available, plastic and injection glides because, you get something that some dude in a tiny town in Japan hand carved for 6 months out of a tree that he, felled with his own hatchet, and then a 25-inch pike engulfs it on the third cast. Doesn't fly very well.
Yeah, no, it's sickening. I lost probably over $150 worth of jackhammers to pike and up on the St. Jude this year. So I get that. But these are going to be, the first time that I ever took this out on the water, I had 19 pounds in 4 hours, and that was my window that day. I drove 2 hours to this lake because I was like, I want to go where there's a high pressure
situation. The lake I sent you to?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like a lake that gets pounded, that gets high pressure, that people, throw a minnow at. And I went out there, and the first cast was actually just a blind cast on a grass edge right off of a hump. And literally catch. My first fish was like a 468 on it, and then I continued to pretty much catch 5 and 6 pounders the rest of the day on it until I had to get back home to pick up kids from school. So
if people want to follow it, you said all the drops are on juicesjigs.com, JUICESJIGS.com. And those will be announced on the Juices Jigs social media platforms, which are Juices Jigs on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
You have a Facebook page?
No,
I don't do Facebook either.
Yeah, it's kind of toxic at times, and that's why I don't love it. I feel like Instagram's better for our space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like in between.
I need to do.
So here's the thing.
page.
I feel like we're in between the TikTok era and the Facebook era, and we were the Instagram guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way that worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Juices Jigs, follow them, Juices Jigs on Instagram. If you guys have any hair jig questions you'd like to get on the list, you want personal FaceTime on how to tie it, just send him repeated DMs on Juices Jigs. Typically, he said he won't reply until you've sent 15 to 20 consecutively, primarily late at night. Also, if you just need a friend to chat with, send him a DM. Basically, just flood his inbox. Also, Juice, you love funny videos.
I do.
So go ahead and tag Juice and send him in the DMs all of your funny fishing, non-related fishing. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's okay.
Hey, dude, I'm not the only one. You're just as bad, dude. Come on now. The group one that we have with Brewer now is probably that one's good.
I say this, a lot of people want to know, like, how do you tie it? What do you use? All of that stuff. I feel like tires can look at that and kind of see how you put it together. Just like guys who hand carve their own square bills, their own baits can kind of look at it and figure it out. But I mean, as a whole, there's also like some stuff that you're not like pumping out there.
Yeah, I don't talk about it.
Yeah,
and I don't tell people about the other things.
How many? So Frank V said, what types of different hair do you use? Obviously, that's part of the deal is how you layer it and the type. But like, how many different types have you used? Like, just
usually like
in total, have you experimented with? Have you used that are in?
Oh, probably like 10 or 12 different ones.
Yeah. I will say this. If you say you're not doing special orders through your DMs, or you are?
Typically don't.
Okay.
So, because
unless you're listening to this and you've like won a Bassmaster Classic or
right.
Yeah. But other than that, like, it's just kind of through the drops.
Yeah.
But if you do have a serious question, a serious inquiry, in all seriousness, feel free to DM him.
Yeah.
Don't flood him. Don't send him anything. He's not going to tell you how he makes them. I do this with Scott with the Bass Tank too. But if you do have it, you want to reach out, you're like, hey, look at this bait fish that's only in the nuclear lake that I live next to. Do you think you can make this happen? That has spawned some of the colors too, or just and you're buddies with a lot of people across the country that you've gotten into conversations with as well.
Yeah, and that's the cool part is, I may not, if somebody sends me something that I can, I'm, being colorblind is
it's actually,
I've got some ways around it that I've figured out, and but like those are the things that like is the fun part for me is the design part, the color design, and
like some of that stuff, like the bearded hair Miki. I was like, hey, I like this, but I don't like this profile when it gets wet. And then you're like, hey, look what I did. Does this help? And then I was like, you can't really tell a difference. Then you change the hair on it, and then you change the density of it and everything to the point where it was like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
No, that looks a lot more like shad instead of a glass minnow or a herring in the water.
Right. And there's also the things, the types of hair that, just do different things.
Just a yes or no. Have you experimented with deer hair?
Oh yeah.
Fox?
Yes.
Rabbit?
Yes.
Ferret?
No.
Squirrel?
Yes.
Polar bear?
No.
Bear?
Yeah.
Yes, bear?
It doesn't hold up very well.
Really?
No, it's not very tough. Yeah. That's why I don't like it. So
What was that story about the dude who like broke into a museum? We talked about that last time.
That was the Feather Thief. It's a book. It's an awesome book. If nobody's ever,
did we talk about that on air last time or not?
No. But this guy broke into the British like conservatory and was stealing. And
he was a tire.
Yeah, and he's like a salmon fly tire. Like I mean, it's straight art what those guys do. It's nothing compared to like, a hair jig, but it's a totally.
Mark won a club derby back to back in '87. He wants to know if he can get on it. I just pulled it up there. It's the Feather Thief. Thief, beauty, obsession, and the natural history heist of the century.
Yeah, this happened in just 10 years ago.
Home to one of the largest No, that was bad of mine.
Yeah.
Ornithological collections in the world. The Tring Museum was full of rare bird specimens with gorgeous feathers.
Mm-hmm.
Were worth staggering amounts of money to men who shared Edwin's obsession, the Victorian art of salmon fly tying. Once inside the museum, the champion fly tyer grabbed hundreds of bird skins, some collected 150 years earlier by the contemporary of Darwin's, Alfred Russel Wallace, who'd risk everything to gather him and escaped into the darkness. 2 years later, Johnson was waist high in a river in northern Mexico when his fly fishing guide told him about the heist. He was soon consumed with the strange case of the Feather Thief. What could possess a person to steal a dead bird? And then that's what the book is all about.
Yeah, and he was selling rare bird skins, like Indian, I think it's Indian crow or something.
To other tires
on the black market, and making a ton of money.
So they knew that they were buying stolen feathers.
Oh yeah,
it was the people who bought them knew they were buying flies that were,
and they still don't know where all the skins went.
You don't give it away.
No,
I probably need to read that.
Sorry, yeah, it's a really good. It's on audiobook too. So if you guys don't like to read an actual book, it's a great thing to listen driving down the road. So
did you see? I'll show you this one. Did you see Newell's new book?
Mm-mm.
There it is, right there. If you read books, right?
Yeah, man.
You need to read that. I have not had a chance to read it yet.
Okay.
Like I said, I told Rob once I have it read, I'll get you on. But it's about it's called Egos, Logos, and Fishing Pros: An Inside Look at Professional Bass Fishing in the Modern Era.
That'll be pretty cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
For sure.
All right. You got anything else before we wrap this thing up?
No, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for jumping on. You did good for a live show.
Appreciate that.
All right. This has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. Same time, same place tomorrow. We'll talk to everyone then. See ya.